All right, we're live and we have people here. Hi, everyone.
Right.
Thanks for joining us. We are so excited. We have a lot of people already in the chat. So do you have a phone or something you want to watch chat that way?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
This is Kelly. Kelly is the Embroidery Nurse, or you may know her. Turn your sound off on the phone.
It's not on. My phone's not even on.
All right. Hello?
Can you not hear me now? Oh, no. I didn't even turn.
That work? Sorry, guys. We are having a little.
Can you hear me now?
Turn your sound off on the phone. Hold on. I am trying to figure out why we're having echoes.
Oh, my phone's not on at all. I didn't want to mess.
Oh, you know what? It's my YouTube. I'm listening to myself on YouTube. Dang it. Sorry, guys. Let me turn the sound. There we go.
That makes sense.
Technology. So anyway, this is Kelly from Embroidery. She's the Embroidery Nurse. She's got an Etsy shop called Embroidery Aid. And I was so excited to have her here. You guys know I am very new to embroidery. And when I first got started, I searched YouTube and that's when I started following Kelly. So Kelly, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and your shop and just give us a brief introduction and then we'll get into some of the nitty gritty.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. So I'm the Embroidery Nurse. That name kind of came about because I'm a nurse by trade, and embroidery was something that I picked up just randomly with a machine that I found at a buy-sell trade website. And I started just making some things for my niece, and then people at work started asking me to make things for them, and it just kind of blew up from there. And I became known at the hospital as the nurse that did embroidery. So that's where my name came from, because I literally was the embroidery nurse. So I thought it was cute, and I just kind of stuck with that name. And, in the beginning, I had such a hard time figuring out how to start, where to start, what to start with, what supplies to get. And so that's why I thought, sharing all the things that I make on YouTube would be, helpful for somebody that was just like me several years ago trying to learn. So, and I love education part of it. As a nurse, I was a mother baby nurse, and pretty much 90% of that job is education. So I just think I have that in me as far as the RN background. It's the see one, do one, teach one. So that's kind of how I work with everything.
Well, very, very cool. Like I said, I don't sell. I'm purely a hobbyist. I just embroider for fun. Kelly has a very, very successful online shop. And I thought it might be fun and interesting for all of my subscribers that are following me to maybe get another viewpoint of how you can really make money in this industry and how you can take a hobby and turn it into a very profitable project for you. So I did make a list of 2 pages, you guys, watch out, of questions we're going to interview. But if you guys have questions, please leave them in the comments. And if you type them in all caps, that'll kind of grab my attention and I will pop them up on the screen. Kelly is watching the comments that I put up on the screen, and hopefully we won't miss any questions. So the very first question I have is, how did you get started with embroidery? Which you kind of just went into. You kind of started as just doing it for fun?
Just doing it for fun. I found, I needed a craft outlet. I love crafts, like you. I don't have all the fun tools that you have in your studio there. They're all on my bucket list, but I love to do crafts. And so, always looking for the next thing. And when this kind of fell in my lap, it just spiraled from there. I just had so much fun doing it. And, I would show something on Facebook and 10 people would say, I want one. And so it just kind of started me thinking, well, I thought this was a saturated market. I thought that there was plenty of people that do monograms out there, but I found really quickly, even the large town that I lived in, that there was room for more. And I think there is every day, there's room for, someone else to join in this craft of embroidery. There's always people local, and then on Etsy, my reach is nationwide. So it definitely just started when I realized I could make a little bit of money off of it. I was like, you know what, this will be fun. I can have some money in my back pocket to go out to lunch with my friends and not feel like I'm taken away from household money for that. And then, look back, it went from that to a full-blown, full-time business, just in a matter of a couple of years. So it's been fun. It's been a ride for sure.
I think the world of embroidery, I mean, when I first started getting into it, I was hesitant because I kept thinking of, pardon me if anybody likes this, but I kept thinking of like little old ladies with cats embroidered on a sweatshirt, And I think it's really gotten a new push in the recent last few years where it's really becoming a very trendy hobby again. And I think that's really cool. And I think there is a lot of embroidery business popping up and a lot of people looking for embroidery. So I think that's fun.
I think so too. I think a lot of people have gotten into it over the pandemic as well. Something they can do at home, either, just for themselves or to, make a little bit of money on the side. I definitely have seen an increase. I know machines are like really hard to get their hands on right now because people have been buying them up left and right.
And speaking of the pandemic, you got a really, really big push on face masks when you were doing In the Hoop face masks.
Oh yeah. That was crazy. I didn't plan on doing them. I'm a nurse, so I reached out to my own, area hospital and asked, I heard, masks were a thing. Is that something that, that I could help do? And at that time, they weren't doing any, homemade masks. That was not something my hospital was into at all. So I really just kind of kept it at that. I was like, all right, I'm not going to do it. I donated fabric to some, people that were making them for the community or whatnot. And then Etsy gave a huge push to anybody that sold on Etsy that if you had any ability to, sell masks, they really highly encourage us to do so. And when Etsy encourages you to do something, they're going to give you some benefit to that, whether it means, your listings will be higher up in the algorithm. But I've learned over the years that if Etsy has a suggestion, that it's something that I follow. So I was like, why not? I can make these. And I did them completely in the hoop because I don't sew. I can sew, but I don't do it much. So I made them completely in the hoop, and 3,000 masks later, it was wild. It was definitely what my family will remember half of our pandemic, stay at home, mom making masks up in her craft room. I was staying up every night.
3,000?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was. Every day I had to turn my listing off. I set my, listing at 50 per day. And by midday, they would all be gone. And I was tempted to keep it up, but I knew I couldn't keep up with that volume. So 50 a day. And, on the weekend, I would catch up if I wasn't able to do 50, make 50 in a day. But it was wild. I hope there's no other time like that for those at least. But it was wild. But, I felt good about it. I mean, people obviously needed them, wanted them. I had them at a real low price point, but Etsy had it as one of the bestseller, had a bestseller tag on it. So I know that's what, and I got them on there really early. The day they put out the email, I went ahead and listed one. So I kind of got in ahead of the game. And now you can find them everywhere. So, they're not as sought after for handmade ones.
Deborah Spencer asked, what kind of machine does Kelly have? And that's on my list. You started with a single needle machine, and now look behind her. She's got 3 multi-needle machines, and you should, if you watch her videos, if you guys haven't subscribed, go subscribe. If you watch her videos, she has all 3 of those running at once. I don't know how she does it because I'm in awe. But tell them about your machines and how you started single.
I did. I bought one, like I said, like at a yard sale, and it was a 4x4 Brother PE 500, which I'm not even sure. Well, I know they don't make those anymore. Because again, I didn't know anything about embroidery. So I just saw this machine and I was like, yeah, I'm going to monogram everything. But quickly did I learn a 4x4 machine doesn't get you very far. I mean, you can certainly do monograms on children's clothes, but you really can't do like the applique t-shirts and things like that with a 4x4. It's a really small hoop size. So I started doing it. I already was starting to sell random little things and realized really quickly that I needed to size up. And the next step I went to was another single needle, but just had a much larger size for, hooping. I think it went up to an 8x12. And then I basically worked myself out of that machine as well, and ended up getting the 6-needle baby lock. Loved it. And again, my business kept growing, so I just kept having to keep up with it. I always got a machine basically out of panic of I can't keep up with what I'm doing right now. So the day I brought them home, they were going full force. And then I decided to get another 6-needle versus some people will trade in a 6-needle and get a 10-needle. To me, having 2 6-needles was going to allow me to pretty much double what I could do in a day. So that's why I have the 2 6-needles. And then the commercial Racoma behind me is a 15-needle, which is a beast in its own. It does all the things the other ones do, but it's got like huge hoop sizes and, the ability to do hats and things like that. So it really kind of added to, my shop and things that I can work with.
For those of you,
so that's the Racoma 1501.
Yeah, I was going to say, for those of you who know, I have the EM1010. Mine's a 10 needle. Hers is the 1501. Hers is a step up. So she's got 15 needles, but they're commercial machines. But yeah, if you watch her videos, she goes back there and she puts something on one machine. She goes and then she goes to the next one, puts it on, goes to the next one, puts it on. And I'm just like, what? I'm in awe.
So I do with doing it with multiple machines. I really have to be, I have to really think through what's going to be on each machine. I'll kind of assign a machine to a certain job because I go through different things, seasonally at different times where I have a lot of one thing. For instance, right now I'm doing a ton of Easter baskets and seersucker bags. And so, I just assign, the Racoma to that because it does really well with the fast frames. And then, I'll do whatever Easter applique I'm doing on another machine. And then I'll do straight monograms on another machine. That way they each have their job. But they can all, do the same, things. One has like the PES format for those that don't know. And then the Racoma has the DST format. But I can interchange all of my, designs for any of the machines. So I try to keep them all running. When I'm really backed up with orders, I get frustrated with myself if one of them goes quiet for long.
Well, that is a good segue to my next question is how many hours a week do you think that you embroider?
So that completely depends on, volume that I have. Because, if I feel like there's a lull, then I'll push out a new item to my own Facebook group, which is a very active group. And I'm always trying to think of the next thing that I can add to my shop, the next cute item that I can add. So way more time than I wish was spent on the backside of not actually even embroidering. When it comes to actually things on the machine, I don't spend a lot of time. I have 3 boys and, we were just in a pandemic with kids home with virtual learning and they're all, getting back into, life a little bit more. We moved in the middle of the pandemic. So I also don't like to come down to my craft room if I can only do it for like an hour. That's not enough time for me to get into the groove.
Right.
If I know I can come down for 2 to 3 hours at a time, then that works for me. And I do a lot after my kids go to bed. I'm just a night owl anyway. And that's always been a good time, as a busy mom, even when life was normal way back when, that always was a time that has been, crucial for me because I know I can come down and work as long as I want, as long as I can last. I'll put my Hallmark videos on or movies on my TV. But I would say if I had to round it out, if I can work 3 hours a day, which I know that doesn't sound like a lot, then I feel good about kind of keeping up with where I go. But my entrepreneurial mind never turns off. So, I'm sitting in carpool with, my yellow pad of paper out, thinking of the next thing and thinking of, what I can do to, improve my shop or, my channel or, different, all different ideas that are kind of brewing. It doesn't ever turn off.
I'm impressed because I would have guessed you spent a lot more hours than that because you put out a lot of, when you show a haul of what you're getting ready to do, I'm like, holy moly.
Yeah. Well, and again, it takes a lot of prep work. When I do like a live, where you watch me, I've already spent probably 2 hours on the computer getting all those designs together, putting them on the USB. When I actually turn the camera on, that's me just running through them like as fast as I can. But there was a lot of prep work prior to that. So, I mean, there is a lot more kind of behind the scenes of SEO stuff with Etsy and keeping up with inventory and the boring stuff. I just met with a tax guy and just all that boring and stuff that has to be done for business. There's a lot more than just the machines on. I mean, there'll be a day that I'll come down and the machines are never turned on because there's so much that I'm doing on the back end of the business. So I've actually, for the first time, delegated to someone else. They are doing some of my social media accounting for Embroidery Aid, which is new. So I felt bringing somebody on. This was the first time I kind of allowed someone to jump in on my my wagon.
This was a funny comment I saw. Beth says, funny seeing you two together. I always wondered if Kelly and Lorrie were sisters. They favor each other.
Oh, too funny.
Blonde hair, I think. Blonde hair.
Yeah.
But no, we're not sisters. Just embroidery sisters.
That's right.
Deborah says, what's the name of your Facebook or YouTube channel? I did put all of Kelly's links in the description of the video. And I tried to comment here, but it's not letting me. This is being really fickle tonight. But I will link it again as soon as I can in the comments. But again, it is in the video description. I've got her Etsy page, which is I'll let you tell them.
So yeah, my channel is Embroidery Nurse, and that's also my Etsy page is Embroidery Nurse. And I have it all linked where you can just go to embroiderynurse.com. I have that web address that goes to it. As far as like asking questions and stuff like that on Facebook and Instagram, those all go to Embroidery Aid, and that's the website that I've created to try to bring everything together, tips, tricks, and tools of the trade in machine embroidery. So you can find all my videos there. I have the beginnings of a podcast, but I can't really find time for that one quite yet. I haven't quite been able to keep up with that. But, I've just got some fun things as far as opportunities we're going to start in April, or actually in May, doing some stitch outs together live on YouTube. So I'm really super excited about that. But all of that can be found at embroideryaid.com.
Okay. Let's see. When you answer a question, you take out about 5 of my list.
I like to talk.
Oh, no problem. But I thought I was being very strategic, but no. Advice to anyone thinking of starting an embroidery business.
Okay. Well, like I said, that is probably the hardest part in the beginning. Where to start, how to start, inventory, what supplies that you need. It's overwhelming. I mean, if you go to Amazon and type in stabilizers, you're going to come up with 300 plus. And in the beginning, you have no clue, which one should I use and for what. And what's crazy to me, and like the number one rule I want everyone to remember, is you can ask 10 people that do machine embroidery about the same question, and all 10 of them will give you a different way that they do it that works for them. So knowing that helped me in the beginning, because it was so conflicting. I'm like, well, this person said to do it this way. There's no black and white. People will find techniques that work for them that somebody else is going to, throw out the window and say, I would never do that. So that part is hard. And you really do have to just try different ways of doing things and figure out what works best for you. Because it can be so overwhelming. In the beginning, I definitely suggest treating yourself like a business before you even think you are. That's always been, big advice, of making yourself look professional. I've given an example before of, a girl at work ordered her son's applique shirt for me for his birthday. And, I made it just like I normally do. And I put it in the little, clear poly bag, and put my business card in it and put it in my brand colored bag with a thank you that I'd had made with my logo on it. And I gave it to her, and she literally looked up at me and she was like, wow, you're like the real deal. And so this was early on, but I mean, just those little extra things that you do in the beginning, help others feel confident in what you can do. So again, just treating yourself like a business, long before you might think that's necessary is I feel like what helps people, grow. Instead of, I could have taken her that shirt and here's teeter bag, I could have, easily just given it to her in a quick, Ziploc. but, I try to make everything, look professional. I guess.
That's a great
I don't know
advice.
if
That's great advice. It's all in the presentation, the branding.
I think so.
Very important. Evelyn said, how do you know what to charge?
Well, I will tell you, in the beginning, I had no clue, but I will tell you that also is what helped skyrocket my business. I posted this cute little seersucker bathing suit. It was so cute for kids, little girls, and then swim trunks for boys. They were matching seersucker. I posted those for $18 because I didn't know what I was doing. And so because of that, I got a zillion orders. And that's when I was like, oh, wow, what's going on? I had to turn that post off. And then, in retrospect, looking back, I should have been charging $34 or something like that. But I didn't know any different. But that did help me in the beginning, grab those people, gave them, nice work, and they kind of stuck around. But now I try to do double what I buy, for wholesale, and then generally add like $5 to that, which kind of covers the embroidery. So I double, an item. If I buy a $5 shirt, well, that's not true because it's way more than that for my shirts.
Well, I mean, do you think it kind of varies from
the
area you're in? Like, don't you have to kind of look and see what the going rate is in your? Of course, I guess you do a lot of online, so it doesn't really matter where you live.
Well, yeah, I mean, I certainly looked around first on Etsy and just kind of wanted to price myself accordingly. Now, of course, there's going to be some people that are lowballing it that I look at that and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not even worth their time. But they're probably just in the beginning trying to get some sales. And then there's some people that, have $1 million shop that they price themselves much higher, but since people have, come to them. So I just try to find mid-range and what works for me and make sure that the time is worth what I'm doing. But yeah, in some of my items, I kind of price differently, based on, what the going rate out there. There's some wholesalers that will have you that have a price point that you have to start with. So, for items like that, you already kind of have a base of what it needs to be. And, it just depends on where you buy things from, if they give you any kind of restrictions like that.
I would imagine too, the job, like if you're doing applique, it's going to take a lot longer than if you're doing just a monogram.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I just did a video on this cute little applique bunny, but it took me forever. So I was like, I won't put this on my Etsy shop because it just takes me too much time. As cute as it is, I'm sure I could sell them, but it just took me like an hour for one shirt. That for me in my business, that's not profitable. But I made it for my group that, and whatnot. And they were so cute. Like I kind of want one for an adult, but I've learned, there's certain things that really aren't worth it for the business side of it, to spend an hour on one shirt. And like you said, if I just get a little dress and put a monogram on it, that takes 12 minutes. So, I make just as much money off of that than I, do off of the applique shirt. So I've kind of learned there's certain things that I'd have on my site that I removed after the fact, like that some things I just didn't like making. They just weren't fun. So I every time I'd get a sale of that, I would cringe.
Really?
And so I've allowed myself to, remove some things that just brought me no joy in making along the way too.
I think it's important too that people understand that because I know a lot of people are starting with single needles, that they absolutely can start a business with a single needle machine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There really are a lot of different things you can do. And that's the thing. It doesn't have to just be applique shirts. It doesn't have to, just, like I said, monograms, the size of a monogram on a kid's item, 3.5 inches is perfect. So a 4x4 for that. But then there's things like linens. I do a lot of linens where, I'm just putting, a monogram letter on, a napkin or a placemat. Those things absolutely can be done, on single needles. There's so many different items that you can embroider, just finding what works best and what you enjoy doing too. And in the beginning, you might not know. You might put up 20 listings, and Etsy sales might determine what route you go. I've had people, reach out to me like, should I put all these different things up? And I'm like, in the beginning, I would, because you just never know what might be the next bestseller for you. The first year that I put things up, it was was the very end of October, so people were starting to do Christmas shopping, and I had a apron set that I'd made for my niece, and who knew that was going to be my bestseller that year? I wouldn't have thought that putting it up there, but my rule is if I make it for somebody, I take a picture of it and I add it as an Etsy listing because there might be somebody else out there looking for that too.
That's great advice. Then that actually leads me into. Ooh, are you hearing that back feed? All of a sudden, I'm
I can't.
terrible back feed. It said my next question was: do you think it's better to specialize in one niche, like children's clothing or hats, or do you think it's better to do more of a broad listing starting out, or maybe start out that way and then switch?
Yeah.
What's your advice?
So that's kind of what I was saying. Like in the beginning, I would put up anything and everything that you're making because to me, the niche is embroidery. So, you're not, it's not like you're putting in, a candle that you're making with things that you monogram. So as long as it falls under, the whole niche of machine embroidery, I think my recommendation is to put it all up there because I think that all is grouped together. But then, over time, you might realize what sells best for you. You might really be surprised on what that is. It's hard in the beginning. If you can find, some folks that you can make some samples for, your own kids, your grandkids, your neighbors, coworkers, if you can find folks that are willing to, buy a sample from you or you make them something as a gift, that's a good way to kind of get some things up there. But I think in the world of embroidery, you don't have to just say, I'm only going to do baby items. Because again, I think the whole niche is the fact that you're doing machine embroidery and you're embroidering on an item. But I think over time you might lean more towards, one item versus another. I still have linens. I have pillows. I've got, placemats. I've got baby onesies. I have purses. I've got bags. I've got hats. They're all on my site. I've never narrowed it down from that, but they're all embroidered on. So
there you go.
That's what ties them all together. Yeah.
Wow, I don't know where that back feed is coming from. How do you find customers, or how do you recommend somebody that wants to start a business? How do they go about finding customers? Do you just, obviously you make an Etsy shop, but how do you get people to that Etsy shop?
Come to that. Well, so in the beginning, I did a lot of stuff local, and I reached out to, buy sell trade pages. I don't know if those are everywhere. I assume they are. It's like Facebook Marketplace. I would put, some things up there. Next door, if y'all have that as an app where you can put things in your area and just start to get a following that's local. If you don't have the ability to do anything local, some people don't. Some people are not in an area where embroidery is the thing. Then Etsy is where you want to go, and Etsy is a wonderful platform. But what you need to know about Etsy is what sells is your pictures. So to start, you've got to perfect that picture because that's how people buy. That's how people see you. If your pictures aren't up to par with everybody else's, then people have passed over you before they've even given you a chance. So if there was one thing to, really focus on in the beginning, it would be your photography, making sure you invest a little bit in a backdrop and a nice light that can, take quality pictures for you. And then on top of that, your SEO, how you name your items and using all the 13 tags that Etsy allows you to use. Because the goal is that, say a mom, for instance, wants to get a purple dress for her daughter's birthday. She's going to go into the search, bar of Etsy and write purple monogram dress. Well, if you don't have that in any of your, taglines, if you just have, just some random cute ruffle dress, that's not what someone's typing in. You have to be really, really think through how you name your items and have that be things that people are actually searching for.
Great. It's when I talk. It's driving me crazy. Every time I start talking, I hear the backlash.
No.
This is interesting. What is one piece of advice that you know now that you would have liked to given yourself when you started?
I kind of think it's what I said earlier is that there's a million ways to do the same thing. And, you just kind of have to learn, what works best for you. Because that's where I got frustrated in the beginning of just not, I would try something that someone was doing and I couldn't perfect it. And then I would try it another way. And then finally I was like, this is the way that works best for me. You'll hear people say, I hoop things, I float things, I pin things, I baste things. So many different ways that people, work. Just knowing that, you gotta, and you have to make a few errors to figure it out along the way, and allowing yourself, the grace and the errors, that you make. And in the very beginning, that first huge order I was talking about for those bathing suits, I was so scared making these that I ordered double. So if someone ordered a 3T pink bathing suit, I ordered 2. And that gave me an opportunity to fail once and have, one to as my backup. So just kind of giving yourself grace in the beginning, because it's not the easiest craft, but once you get it, and you'll keep moving forward.
I think that's great advice for any craft. Just give yourself, it's not that serious. You're going to make mistakes, expect it. It's okay. Right. And you learn, you figure out. I think just with my journey of learning embroidery, the more I do it and the more mistakes I make, the more confident I am, because I'm like, oh, if that happens, I know how to fix it. I know how to, if I get a thread break, I'm not, oh my God, don't make me rethread that. now it's easy. So I think that's great advice. I'm going to take a break from the questions for just a second, and Kelly is going to be offering people who are getting into embroidery what you need to get started. So why don't you tell them about your kit that you're going to be coming out with and what's in it? And I went and bought my SnagNavit. I haven't taken it out of the package, but I got it.
That's my favorite. I mean, really, that is my favorite tool, and it costs like $2. So what I decided to do is, like I said in the beginning, I didn't know what to buy. It's overwhelming to know, what materials are best. And so what I've done is I've curated a box of supplies that I feel like are the essentials to just getting your, foot started in machine embroidery. So the very basic of supplies. So it will have, 5 different stabilizers that I use. Everything that's in this box is stuff that I use and I use daily. And if you watch my videos, you'll see me using this. Like, for example, my, the scissors I use, they're in the box. The SnagNavit that Lorrie was talking, they're in the box. The needles that I use, they're in the box. So it is for just the beginning of your journey, because that's where I think most people, have problems of narrowing it down of what, they should try. So these are things that I have personally used and feel like, can get you off on the right foot. So we are launching that, and that's super exciting. April 1st, we'll have those available and ready for purchase on embroideryaid.com. And I will be having them on Amazon, but I haven't sent my first shipment yet. But the goal is just to honestly help who I was 5 years ago, the person that was confused and lost and not sure where to start, just kind of simplify it. And, it's going to have thread in there as well. So I hope it will be helpful to those that are new to the craft. I encourage anyone to, try it and see, the items that I've used, and hopefully they'll help you with your own, stepping into the journey of machine embroidery.
I think it's a wonderful idea, because there are so many. I mean, when when you're a beginner embroiderist, and I mean, I'm not that far around the corner from very, very beginning. It was so overwhelming, because I'd go to a video and they're like, okay, you need cutaway, tearaway, topping, water-soluble stabilizer, you need to get polymesh. And I'm like, huh? And really you don't need all of it till you know what you're going to do. But I think that's a beautiful idea, because you'll have the basics, so you can get started out of the box. And SnagNavit got everything.
And get that SnagNavit. For those who don't know, let's see, I don't know if I can even grab it I'm at my craft table. The SnagNavit is this cool little tool for anybody that gets the little loops in any of their embroidery. I'm sure you can't see that little thing. And it's not supposed to be bent, but I use it so often they bend. If you ever have loops on the top of your embroidery, you literally will just stick it in your item, and the rough end of this pulls the loop through, and it saves those. In the beginning, I would look at a loop and think that my project was, ruined, or I was kind of naive and I would cut it, which probably later on the whole thing probably unraveled because I did that. So anyway, the SnagNavit is probably,
You pull it all
It
the way
comes right
through?
through.
I've never
It's
used
perfect.
it. I bought it
All the way
because you
through.
said I
Oh, you
needed it.
haven't? Oh, yeah. I probably have 10 of them on my thing right here. If I don't have it, I freak out. So yeah, you pull it all the way through, and it just pulls that loop all the way to the back side, and it's gone. So I love it. But yeah, so these are all just those simple things that I feel like are helpful. So I'm excited about it. I hope it will be helpful to others.
Great. Let's look at some of the comments here. Kimberly says, I just got my first machine and super stoked. I want to make patches and stuff for my grandkids. What would be the best software for a beginner that would let me use XXX files and add or adjust them?
Um, I'm not sure what XXX files. I don't know if that's BX
Yes,
files.
I think that's Singer
Oh,
embroidery machines
okay.
take XXX, I think.
So my go-to, because it's what I've always used, but I absolutely love it, is Embrilliance Essentials. There's an upfront cost. It's $149, but with all that I do, it's all I've ever needed. There's some really fancy, softwares out there, but in the beginning, they probably do way more than you would ever need. In the beginning, I'm not trying to make designs personally, but if that's something you want to do, there's an add-on to Embrilliance that you could add later on if you want to get into digitizing. But just for the basics of starting, I've always used Embrilliance Essentials and have found it very user-friendly. There's tons of YouTube videos out there too of how to use it. So I think that one's helpful. So What Pro is another one that people use. A lot of people that do embroidery, I'm just not as familiar with that because I've always, worked with Embrilliance. And I would assume that it would do those files just the same. That was one thing that I was excited when I got my Racoma. I can use Embrilliance to make the designs for both. All I have to do is when I go to save it on my USB is use the drop down and pick DST versus PES. So I bet you anything, because there's a lot of them on there and I'm just not paying attention to what all the other ones are. I bet all of them are on there that you could save it for your machine. I'm pretty sure they are.
And a little plug for Racoma, it does come with its own digitizing software called Chroma, which I've been learning to digitize. I've been dabbling in it. So it's a lot of fun, and really I have a lot of fun just taking like an SVG, because I come from a die cutting world, taking an SVG and turning that into embroidery files. So you can do that with Chroma, which comes with your Racoma machine.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mary says, I am embroidering an applique hooded towel, watching and listening to you ladies, and Frozen 2 playing for the evening. Haha.
Nice. Hey, Mary.
We always have Frozen playing here too. Baby girl is 3. Frozen's the theme of the night.
Hey, Shayna.
Angela, by doing many different things with embroidery, shows customers the different types of items you can make. Yeah,
definitely. There's.
And so
I was going to say, sorry, I keep talking over you. So that was one thing that also we're launching our stitch out supply boxes. And the idea behind that is, every month you can get 4 new items that we'll do together. And by the end of the year, you'll have 50 things that you might have never known that you could embroider, that you could either add to your shop or, just be something else in your back pocket that you've learned to do. So that's going to be fun. I'm super excited about that. It will literally come with everything you need, and I mean everything. It will come with the thread, the fabric, the stabilizers, and it'll just be fun that we can do it together, because there are so many things that are still on my bucket list that I want to embroider and haven't done yet. I'm getting a dog on April 11th. We pick up our puppy, and I have this whole list of pet items that I've seen, like an in the hoop, dog plushie, and just all these fun things. So that every day there's something new out there to embroider.
What kind of dog are you getting?
A giant schnauzer.
I never heard a giant schnauzer. Never.
Yeah, so we've had miniature schnauzers in the past and loved them. And my boys are getting a little bit older, and they want a big dog this time. So we were like, well, we know the schnauzers, that we know the breed, and so we're getting a big one this time.
Very fun. I am a dog person.
We're excited.
Evelyn says, do you feel the Cricut has cut into the embroidery market? I'm a Cricut person. I don't know if Kelly knows that or not, but I think they're 2 different ball games. I mean, that's not comparing apples and oranges. I do think there is a crossover. I see, like, the hand sanitizer holders that the embroiderers came up with. Now Cricut, I was one of them that made a hand sanitizer holder that the Cricut could cut out. You can also cut out your applique shapes on the Cricut so that you're not having to trim around them. So I do think there's a crossover, but I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think they really cut into one or the other. I think they're two different ball games.
Yeah, there's definitely a market for both, for sure. And, I have people ask me all the time, well, can you put a monogram on my coffee mug? I'm like, no. I do embroidery, but so to me, I know that's something that would be beneficial for me to add to my shop, so that I could be the full circle of being able to do everything. Because people are not as educated when they don't have any crafting background of how one thing is to the next. Some people will ask me about, doing a matching like shirt for the mom or something like that, and I don't feel like embroidery looks that good on adults, like a large. That to me is kids. And so I will tell them, hey, I think that would look really good with, vinyl. It would just, otherwise, how dense would, some things that they're asking me to do. And so for adults, I think, the vinyl is really where the market is. What I do is more for kids.
Ashley, the monogram mompreneur, can't say that. She's added sublimation. So I do think all this stuff kind of can go together and go hand in hand and complement it. So I think that's kind of the relationship with bringing you on this channel, because I'm kind of a DIY master of nothing, but I do it all. And, you're a specialty shop, but
just embroidery.
It all complements each other, I think.
Yeah. Definitely.
Kimberly, just got my first machine. Super stoked. I want to make. Oh, we did that one. Sorry.
Yeah.
I guess I scrolled backwards here. Let's see. We got a lot of people listening to Disney tonight. All right. I think we're okay here. Deborah says, I can't wait to get one of your boxes. I have a Futura from HSN over 5 years ago. I've never used it.
And that's what I hear from so many people. And even myself, when I got that first 4x4, it sat in my living room, or my dining room actually, for 6 months because I was intimidated. I didn't know what to do. And then I opened the darn thing up and I couldn't figure out, because mine didn't have a USB. It had to be plugged into the computer. I could not for the life of me figure out how this design I had on my computer got to my embroidery machine. And so I'm Googling it. I'm looking on YouTube, and at that moment there wasn't as many people on YouTube talking about embroidery. And so even though I opened it, then it sat there for another month, and finally I was like, let's take the leap. So again, that's kind of where this idea of this box came in, just helping you just get that just first step into it. Hopefully that can help, because it's overwhelming in the beginning, because you don't even know how much you don't know until you start.
Until you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think another big misconception with embroidery is that, I'll just take a design and I just plug it in the machine and I can stitch it. No. It's not like the Cricut where you just take an SVG file, you put it in the machine and it'll print it out. It's not like that. You have to either buy a design or have a design. You have to tell the machine what kind of stitches you want in that design. Yeah. And so I think that is a big misconception. I know it was for me. Like I bought the Janome 500E, was my first machine. And I brought it home and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do my logo. And I was like, uh-oh.
Wait.
I'm missing a step because this isn't going in there. So
yeah. And the other misconception that always irks me is people were like, oh, it does it for you. That machine does it for you because they see it going. But I'm like, there were so many steps before I got to that for it to be doing it for me. And when you have a single needle, you have to sit there with it. You're not able to walk away. So no, it doesn't just do the work for me. No, it's just, I don't hit a button and all of a sudden, like there's a lot of work to it.
Yeah, and there's troubleshooting, and anybody can hit the button, but if those stitches start going all which kind of ways and bird nesting, you got to know.
The other thing that I had learned in the beginning too is I thought if I just bought a design that it was perfect. That if I bought this monogram font off of Etsy, then we're good to go because I got it on Etsy. And I remember taking my second machine back, like I had it for a week, and I'm like, something's wrong. This machine, it just does not work. Every time I do it, this is, breaking or putting a hole in the outfit that I'm working on. And I was blaming everything on this machine. And the lady looks at me and she was very sweet, and basically was like, you have a really badly digitized monogram here. And I was like, wait, but I bought it on Etsy. And she just laughed. She's like, just because you bought it on Etsy doesn't mean that it's, the best of design. So in the beginning, learning what was good digitizing versus, what wasn't, and finding the digitizers that you feel really good about, that if you purchase from them, you're going to have a good product. That was huge in the beginning, in realizing it wasn't, my machine's fault. It was my fault for picking, something that really didn't stitch as well as other things.
Right. Deborah says, do you use HTV vinyl or embroidery vinyl for applique? Not sure what the difference is.
I only use embroidery vinyl because I've never had, a cutter machine. That's not how you say it. A cutting machine. So I don't know what the difference is, but I know like the embroidery vinyl that I use, the backing is soft. Like, it wouldn't be something that could be adhered to anything. You probably know more about that than I do.
You can use, like, some people like to use like the glitter HTV, but you have to take that clear transfer tape off of it. You're peeling it back, so it's more like a fabric. So, and like a lot of people put heat and bond on the back of their fabrics for applique, where if you use HTV, it's gonna adhere. But you wouldn't use like a solid color everyday HTV. It's usually the glitter. Really, that's the only one I can think of that I would use on applique. So
I buy mine. It's specifically called embroidery vinyl. It's glitter embroidery vinyl.
Does it come with a transfer sheet or anything?
No,
like a clear coating over it.
No, I mean nothing you peel off for sure, and it's so. You don't have to put heat and bond light on that at all because it's already got enough stabilization just in its own self. But so if someone hadn't bought anything yet, I would definitely say for embroidery, use the embroidery glitter vinyl if that's the look you're going for. It's really it embroiders really well. I love it.
Is there any shops you recommend for that?
I get mine from Mickery World. I'm not going to spell it right just here on the spot, but Mickery. It's like Mikri World.
Anybody can buy there, or do you have to have a license?
No, anybody. And you can literally just buy an 8.5 by 11 sheet of it. You don't have to buy a ton. You can buy a roll of it. There's one shirt that I do consistently, so I ended up buying a roll of it just because I needed more. But yeah, it's a fun thing to add. As far as a new look to a shirt, it really does make things pop.
Awesome. Bon says, did you just discuss a good machine? I just jumped in here. Well, we've discussed a few machines. That's a good question. Now, what machine would you recommend for somebody that's not sure if they just want to get into embroidery? I always say get the best machine or the biggest hoop that fits within your budget. But I know that leaves it wide open. Do you have a favorite starter machine?
A lot of people will, and I think they're really hard to find right now, is the PE 800. They keep changing the numbers when a new one comes out. But, if you're just not sure at all, but that one can really limit you as well as far as the size. So I kind of agree that to get try to project where you would like to be in a year and base it off of that if you can, if the finances are there. I will say the great thing about Racoma is they do the 0% financing. So that's an option if you're looking to buy a bigger machine from the get-go. But sticking with one of the smaller ones, like I said, I kind of worked my way. I didn't start with these. I started with a 4x4, and then I went to an 8x12 single needle, and then kind of moved up as my business was growing. If I could have gotten a 6 needle or 15 needle in the beginning, then I would have. But that can be, kind of daunting in the beginning, looking at that, price tag, not knowing where your craft might go.
I know when I got the Janome 500E, I thought about it for probably a good year and a half because I just was not sure if I would use it, if I would get my use out of it. And honestly, I
Yeah.
got it and I made a couple things and then it kind of sat. And then I got the EM1010 and I haven't stopped. I mean, I just keep finding, I like quick, fast little projects. I like doing the towels and the hot pads and the just, little piddly things and the hoop projects. But to me, it's just so much fun. But you really don't know until you get into it what, I don't know, what you're gonna want. I mean, one of my friends wanted to get into it, and she said, I don't think I'll ever want to make something bigger than 4x4. And I said, well, you really ought to get at least a 5x7. And
Yeah.
she got that 4x4 machine, and within 2 weeks, she said, I want to get rid of this. I want a bigger machine. So I
Yeah.
think that ultimately you need at least a 5x7. At the very least, I would suggest starting out with 5x7.
Definitely. Well, I know for like those stitch out supply boxes, you can't even do them on a 4x4. The things, you can't find enough designs that, to do enough projects with that. It does limit you. So without doubt, 5x7, smallest to start.
Crafty's Creation. I embroidered only names using the letters on my 4x4 when I first got it. I didn't know anything about the designs from the computer back then, 10 years ago. Now I have an EM1010. So yeah, that's how it goes. You start and just keep, I want more and more and more and more.
Yeah, when I bought my 4x4, I thought, I don't know what I thought. I thought everything was already in there. I thought I could just literally turn the machine on and I could make a monogram. And I was just baffled when I turned it on. I'm like, how do I get that middle letter bigger? Like, why does it look so easy when someone else is doing it? So yeah, again, you don't know what you don't know.
That makes me think of another misconception is that people think you can get a font and you can just make it this big or you can make it this big.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
By a specific size. Usually you'll get a range of sizes within a file, but each size is a different file. So, yeah. Let's see. We got lots of comments going on, but I'm going to go back to my questions. Some of those we've covered. What is the favorite piece that you have ever made? Do you have a favorite?
Honestly, it's the thing that I just posted because I think it's the cutest shirt I've ever made in my entire life.
Do you have it?
You
can show them?
I think I've mailed them all out.
Oh, did you? It was so cute.
It was a Easter bunny shirt, and it had 3D ears. So the ears you could lift up off the shirt, and I put the name on one of the ears. And I can just imagine little kids running around like, with this little shirt. Those are just fun, like so cute. Again, time consuming, but super cute.
They were really cute.
It was just really unique. I had never done anything with, an applique that had pieces that were moving off of it. So that's been fun. I mean, everything new that I try is just kind of opens up a new door. Like I said, I'm getting a dog. And so I just bought this acrylic bowl where I can put the monogram on the underside of it. So, I mean, there's just so many fun things out there that I haven't even done all of them for sure.
Now, when you go to like Target Dollar Spot, do you go like, I could embroider that. I could embroider that.
Oh, well, isn't that partly a disease of a crafter? Every time I see something, I'm like, I could do that. I know I could do that. And sometimes my mom will be like, but Kelly, you don't have to do all of that. Like, let someone else do some of that for you. But that's just how my mind goes. Every time I see something, I feel like I can make that. I can do that. It does get my mind going. You probably do that with all the things that you make.
Oh, I do. And I'm actually trying to get rid of all those things that I bought that I never actually proceeded to make the thing that I thought I was going to make with the thing. Yeah.
I think we all have that. I have that bin over here in the corner of my room. Things that they're on my list, but I don't know if I'll ever get to them.
Yep. What is your favorite, not necessarily most profitable, but what's your favorite thing to make? What do you just like to do for your shop? Is it applique? Is it monogram? Is it kid stuff, bags?
It's definitely the kid stuff. I've had fun doing this like surprise applique of the month. And so that's been fun. Just, trying to find like the cutest thing for, the season or the holiday. And just kind of having fun with it, just looking for cute things. But I mean, I love making my own things. I've got my own monogram bags, for myself. I swear every day it changes. It just depends on what I'm working on at that moment.
Speaking of your applique of the month, why don't you tell them about that?
So it's fun. It's just a way, I get last minute calls all the time, through my group on Facebook or whatnot. I'm like, I forgot to get an Easter shirt. Do you have anything last minute? Well, in the beginning, I was working, till 3 a.m. because someone procrastinated. And my husband finally had to talk me off the ledge and you shouldn't have to be working this hard because somebody forgot, to order something. But I am a procrastinator at heart, so I always have a soft spot for those like me. But the idea behind this surprise applique of the month club is it basically each month comes straight to your door an applique shirt that's for that season or for that holiday. So, that mom doesn't have to think about, oh my gosh, did I order an Easter shirt or did I order, a shirt for 4th of July? Because it's going to come automatically. So just kind of take some of that, it helps me, honestly. It helps me help them because it allows, me, I can plan ahead and I don't have to do things last minute. I can plan my time and my month out a little bit better. But it obviously, of course, is beneficial to the mom that buys it that doesn't have to remember every last, minute for the holiday and make sure they have something for their child to wear to their school party.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Shirley wants to know, has anyone started their business with an embroidery machine in an apartment like Racoma? What are your opinion? I think that's totally doable.
Yeah, I don't see why not. You might not be up at 3 a.m. doing it if you're if you've got folks underneath you, but I've never, I used to do it on my 3rd floor in my old house. And my bedroom was right below it and it was never an issue there. It wasn't keeping anybody up. Wasn't keeping my husband up. I think he sleeps soundly, but I don't see why you couldn't.
Yeah, I don't let space stop you.
Yeah, no.
How do you decide on which designs that you're going to offer? Do you have some kind of method to your madness? Do you have a certain designer that you go to and see what they have new, or how do you narrow it down?
Kind of all of that, and over time, I lean more towards the faster stitch outs. And those are really popular with digitizers right now. So there's an abundance of them, something that I can put on the machine and it, just takes 12 minutes versus, something that I can put on the machine and it takes 45. So I kind of over time, lean more towards those. If I'm going to offer to my Facebook group, because I still do a lot of active stuff in there, like an Easter shirt, I might show them 5 options that I've pre-selected from the 55 options that I have, because I know those are A, very cute, but B, much quicker for me to produce. Now, if somebody asked for, for another design that they've seen, then of course I can do that too, and I will accommodate them. But if I am able to narrow it down, then I do narrow it down to those that are the quicker stitch outs. I used to do satin stitch for everything. And now digitizers, some of them will even sell all 3 styles within one design. So you'll get a bean stitch, which is literally just, the stitch right around the edge, very, takes no time. A zigzag stitch, which does a little bit more, you give a little bit more leeway as far as cutting. And then the satin stitch, which a lot of people are used to, which is, the full stitch all the way around. My go-to is zigzag because I can't cut that bean stitch very well. I've just, doesn't matter what scissors I haven't mastered the look of that. And some digitizers, their bean stitch, you need to cut it real close. Well, other digitizers, your bean stitch, you need to cut a little bit further out. So zigzag's my go-to. So I have definitely changed over time to the faster stitch outs. And if I am able to narrow it down, then that's what I do.
Awesome. The next one you kind of touched on, it's how do you make your shop stand out apart from other ones, or how do you get noticed? And I know you've touched on that a little bit with your branding, with your packaging, but yeah, how else? How do you get their attention so that they choose you to make that shirt for their kid's first birthday rather than shop B?
Right. And so again, it just goes back to photography, making sure you've got good product photos, using all 10 of those spots that Etsy gives you. I mean, if you're talking about Etsy, all 10 of those spots, put in everything any question that someone has ever asked you about a project, go ahead and have that answer in your listing. When it comes to, in my listing, I will put my thread colors. I also will put my fonts that are available. That will be one, each one of those is a picture of the 10 that Etsy gives you. So giving them all the information so they don't have any leftover questions before they order. So they feel confident ordering from you. And then also, if they do message you, answer them immediately. That can be daunting for some folks, but whenever I answer a question immediately, it takes 2 seconds. If I have my phone on me and I'm at carpool and someone asks me a question, I answer it right away. And a minute later, I hear a cha-ching, because if you were to wait 5 hours later, they've already bought from that next shop. So if you have the ability to, answer people very quickly, it could just be a simple, quick question they have, and all they need to do is press, purchase or buy. So that helps you stand out too, is just, being quick, fast communicator, trying to send things, quick shipping. And just being honest with your customers if you're not able to meet a deadline, just communicating with them. Anytime I've had any negative feedback, it's more been on the communication end. It's not the product end. So I kind of have learned, along the way. I don't think I have any bad negative feedback on my Etsy. Because if it was something where they didn't reach out to me and communicate with me, I was able to solve it just with a quick follow-up, and then that might have them change their review to, oh, okay. So communication, photography, and working on your SEO.
Do you think there's that back feed is driving me crazy? Do you think there is such a thing as having too many options for the customer? Like,
yes.
Too many fonts, too many thread colors, too many options? Like, what do you suggest? Like 3 or
there
4?
Are.
Or?
So, there's a 10 million thread colors out there, and I picked, because this was how many I could pick for my thread chart. See if I have it. 64. Where's my little chart? I don't even see where it went. And so for me, that 64 is still a lot, but that helped narrow it down. Like, I made sure there was one of general every color, like the reds, the greens, the pinks, and whatnot. And narrowing it down to 64 allows me to only have to keep 64 on hand. I can't keep every color under the sun. So you don't want to put like the entire thread chart of a company up there, because there's, 1,000 different colors they offer. So narrowing some things down like that make it a lot easier. Because like I said, then I can make sure on my wall that I have those 64 that someone might ask me for. Or if there's a color that people keep asking for that I don't have, then I've added it, as time's gone on. But I really don't think after, I narrowed it down myself that there has been. When I do, like, say I'm doing Christmas pajamas, I will only offer, 2 fonts and 3 monogram options. I'm not giving them all of them. For one, it helps them. There's too many for them can be overwhelming, but it makes it a lot easier on my end. I've picked the ones that are the most favorable, over time anyway. But I also pick the ones that maybe stitch the best, that are, have a better quality to them, that are a little bit thicker for that item. So that's always been helpful, narrowing certain items down. When it comes to my linens, I definitely only offer a couple of options, that I feel like work good with, your linen, finer, linen type items. So definitely narrowing things down is helpful. You don't have to have a gazillion.
Cindy said, what are your favorite blank suppliers? Now, I know that you've got videos on this, but why don't we just touch on the ones that are not wholesale, that anybody can buy from? And then go to her channel, make sure you subscribe, because she gives you all her secrets all the time. And she's got a couple different videos on blanks.
And it depends on what if you're just talking about like clothing, you've got Blanks Boutique, ARB blanks, AJ blanks. You don't need a wholesale license for those. Those are all interchangeable as far as getting t-shirts for kids. All of those are children. Blanks Boutique and ARB also has like the dresses and things like that. I love that cotton, but they do require a wholesale. But then there's, if you're doing, it really depends on what you're, embroidering, because I probably have, relationships with, 15 different places that I order stuff from regularly. I get my hats from a different place that I get, some of my linens from, that I get my pillows from, that I get, it just depends. So specifically for, kids clothing, I would say those three, the Blanks Boutique, ARB Blanks, and AJ Blanks all have, interchangeable white and colored shirts for kids.
Awesome. Brenda Thompson says, when I was looking for an embroidery machine at my quilt shop, some customer told me to look ahead and get a machine that I thought would be where I would be in a year's time. She was so right.
Definitely.
Kimberly asks, any tips for embroidery on jeans or a jeans jacket? I haven't tried that, so I have no tips, but I don't know if you tried that.
I've actually not done either one of those, but I use for everything that I do. I mean, it could be a lunchbox or a baby onesie. I use the same needles for everything. I've never been one to interchange. There's charts that are 5 pages long on if you embroider this, use that. And I haven't felt like that was necessary in my shop. I'm sure there is some science behind all that, but I'm just giving it to you real and telling you how I roll. I use one needle, one type of needle. It's a sharp Microtex needle. So I do that with my linens, and same that I do, with trying to think of something a lot thicker. But I literally have gotten away with all three of these machines using the exact type needle. That is kind of where it's overwhelming. Like I said, there's charts where it'll have a specific type of fabric, and it will tell you what needle to use, what stabilizer to use. So you can follow that, but no shop would have all of that available. So for me, just sticking with one, it's worked so far.
Do you by and large use 40 weight thread?
Do I buy what?
By and large use 40 weight thread, or do you switch your threads with?
No, I use the same thing, the same thread. I use Isacord and Floriani. Those are the two I like because I like the sheen that both of those have. I don't interchange, anything unless I'm in a panic and I have to run to the craft store because I run out of something and I can't get it fast enough. But that's all I use. I only use white bobbins. I know some people will sometimes switch up the color of their bobbin, but I've always just used white bobbins for everything I've done too.
I'm almost to the bottom of my questions, but I got a couple more. Does social media play a big role in your shop or in your selling your embroidery designs?
You don't. When you're taking the time to do it, it doesn't feel like it. But I know that's how you get your name out there. You can add links where things can be. If you want this, you can click on it to go there. This is the first year where I've actually gotten someone helping me with that, but that's more with my Embroidery Aid. When we're talking about the boxes, I wanted them to help launch those for me. When it comes to purchasing, I love just putting my items up there on my other Instagram page. That's just for the items that I make. For one, the people that I make them for get excited when they see something that that they purchased. But Etsy does a really good job of showing you how people found you. And there is a whole section, when you click down in your analytics that, someone found you through social media. And it will even break down, 14% of the people found you from Pinterest. So that's really eye-opening. And, like when I see that, I'm like, okay, well, that keeps my momentum going. Okay, I'll keep adding to Pinterest. They say to pick two. Don't try to do every single social media outlet out there. So for me, Facebook and Instagram is where I kind of stick to. Instagram, I think, is great because, again, the photography is what we're talking about is so big in what we do that Instagram's kind of a no-brainer for me because you've already taken that quality picture. It's just now you're adding it, to your social media.
Shane is asking, what needles, brand, and size, please? I only know Oregon 7511s.
So I use the 8012 Microtex sharp needles. I'm going to say this wrong, but is it Schmetz? Is that how you say that?
I think so.
Yeah, but it can be any brand, 8012 Microtex. Microtex is just the sharp part of that needle. There's other brands that sell that as well, but 8012, that's honestly, it's the person that I bought my first machines from. That's what they recommended, and they're the ones that told me they use it on everything, and so I just ran with it and have done that, ever since.
That's interesting. I've always used 7511, so I might give that a try. My 19th question is your family involved in your business? Do they help you ship and pack and do any of it?
They give me time so that I can work. And so that is where I have three boys. And so as far as the craftiness side of it, sadly, nobody has picked up on that with me. um, but my husband is a huge supporter of what I do. He recognizes this is a business, that this isn't just, a craft. And, in the beginning, I felt like I had to convince him that this isn't just, I'm trying to get this to grow. This is what I want to do. And he recognizes, the value that this brings for us. And so he definitely makes sure that I have the time that I need. My kids come first though. So that's why I told you I don't work a lot of hours a day down here. If I work, a lot of times I work at night, just because I want to be able to be there for my boys, and I don't want them to always look back and say, well, all she did was hang out in her craft room. But this is my girl space. That's why I have pink. Pink is everywhere in here because I live with four boys in my house with three sons and my husband. So, this is kind of my, people have their men's den. This is my space. So
very cool. When you were a nurse, were you able to still sell on the side, or did you do that after you quit the nursing?
No, so that is where it all started. And like, if you weren't listening in the beginning, for those that might not have been on, that's where my name came from. Literally, I was the nurse that did embroidery. People would find me from different units in the hospital, and we'd meet in the cafeteria to, for me to give them their item. I'd never met them, but they knew that this nurse over there in Mother Baby did embroidery. And so that's where it started. I mean, I was a full-time, nurse, assistant manager of a floor, like just all consuming. But the great thing about nursing, just as a home business, I was able to, kind of work as things picked up in embroidery. I was able to kind of, go back a little bit as far as the time that I was doing with nursing. And I was a nurse all the way up until March of last year. So I wanted to keep my foot in the door. Nursing is an amazing field. I really never wanted to fully get out of it. The only reason I did was because the pandemic. And at that time, I was only working part-time, just kind of per diem as they needed me. Well, when the pandemic hit, a lot of places did not need their per diem staff anymore. And so they kind of put me on a hold, and with the intentions of bringing me back. I didn't lose my job, but at that moment, they didn't have enough people coming in for things. So anyway, long story short, once they kind of, put me on hold, I never back. That was kind of, my way of getting out of what I was doing. And then we moved. So now I don't even I don't live in the same town that I was working, but nursing is amazing. And I do think that I will continue with that. But right now my focus is strictly embroidery, which is the great thing about having something like this, that I was able to, transition and know that I, as it had grown, I could still contribute.
The reason I asked you that question was because I didn't want people to feel like it wasn't something that you could do on the side, that you can actually start it and still keep your full-time job, have that security, but you could still have a very successful on the side
absolutely
business and make a little extra cash. Whether you want to make it full-time or not, that's a whole different ballgame, but great way to just to support what you want to do, to support the
absolutely
habit. My last question is, why do you love embroidery? What is it about it? Do you just like that? Do you like that one-on-one time? Do you like that, the creative process? Do you like the planning, the prep, thinking of the design, or do you like that final result? What is it about it?
Yeah. Well, like I said before, like I'm just a crafter at heart. So to finally have found something that, I've made a gazillion things crafting. Like I just love having my hands and creating, and to have found something that I love doing and that other people have, reciprocated and they love the end product. That's exciting to me. I feel like, I'm bringing joy to, the people that I'm making things for. I love the sales part of it. Like that's always fun. Like when I think of a great idea and I post it and like everybody's like, oh, I want one. Like that to me still excites me. I get that wrong sometimes though. Sometimes I think this is going to be an amazing item and everyone's going to want it. And then it's like crickets when I post it. So I do. I think I love every little aspect about it. The end product for sure. And then actually seeing the kids at their birthday party with the cute shirt that I made them, or you know, their family picture out on the beach with the navy dress that I monogrammed for them it still brings me joy just seeing that, the end product, things that I worked on.
Very cool. Beth is saying, on average, how much a year after deductions do you think it's giving you as an income? Now, first of all, we're not asking you for your end dollar. I think it's important to say you get in it, you get out of it what you put into it. So, I mean, somebody could make $500 a week, or somebody could make $1,000 a week. You know, it depends how much time and effort you want to put into it. Wouldn't you? And I'm not a seller, so I'm just guessing.
No, I agree.
And, I don't think it's nice. We're not going to ask you a dollar amount.
No, I know. But I do think you have to spend money to make money. You know, you whether it be that you do some ads or things like that. You do have to. There's a lot of work that goes in to getting to a point where it's not just, you know, the side gig. But you have to invest in yourself. You have to, like I said, you know, treat it as kind of where your end result that you want to be. You know, go ahead and get those cute little poly mailers and business cards and things like that. In the beginning, you know, I would say for, you know, the first couple of years, the money you put in is kind of a wash with what you make. You know, as far as growing. So, but I agree. What you put in is, which, you know, my physics teacher used to tell me that, and I worked really hard and still got a C. So I don't know. That was always her line with me. She was like, "You get what you worked for." And I'm like, "I worked really hard." But anyway, so
algebra for me.
Yeah, any math for me.
Well, I appreciate you so much coming on our channel. And again, you guys, make sure you check out her YouTube channel, her Instagram. She gives you all the secrets to starting your own business. She doesn't hold anything back. She's not afraid of competition. She's encouraging all of you to do it. She gives you all the information about blanks. She gives you the information about what to get started. She's got those boxes coming out April 1st. April 1st. And I think that is an amazing idea, because that is one of the hardest things to get started with embroidery, is knowing, what do I need? Just the basic. I just want to get my machine out of the box and get started. And that, I think, is a brilliant, brilliant idea. Do any of you guys have any last minute questions before we let her go? I know we're probably keeping her from her family, and Wrigley is, I think, dying to go outside.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. This has been awesome. I love all the things that you make. You said you're the crafter of all. I mean, you really do make some amazing things, and you have made me have so many things on my bucket list of things that I want to buy and new crafts I want to try. So it's dangerous watching all the fun things you make.
Well, thank you. Like I said, I'm master of none, but I do like to dabble in all of it. We've got, let's see, let me pop some comments up here so you can interact. Always say it's to see the reactions. She's responding to why you do it. Really enjoyed this wrap session. Wonderful chat. Thank you both. Thank you. It is fun. I make felties for granddaughters to play with. Oops, I didn't put that one up. There we go. Thank you for the super chat. So sweet. Thank you for sharing all the information. So we're going to let Kelly go and have dinner. I'm going to go let Wrigley out. Thank you so much. I hope we can do this again sometime. This was so much fun, and I appreciate you being here so much.
Thank you. Good to see everybody.
And you guys, the links to all of Kelly's channels and her shop and everything is in the description below the video. I'll try to add it to the comments. I don't know why it's not letting me. I put it on the YouTube chat, but I don't think it's going through. So we'll get it in there. Make sure you check it out. It is in the comment or in the description below the video. See you guys.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Happy stitching.